Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ted, and today I'm joined by...
Nerdarchist Dave.
And today we're going to dive back into the Tal'Dorei campaign setting with allies and adversaries. Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So we're going to dive back into Tal'Dorei, which in the description below you can also find a Amazon link to that, and it helps support the channel as well. It's an affiliate link. So if you haven't got your copy, you can pick it up.
So we are going into the allies and adversaries of Tal'Dorei.
So most of these are more like NPCs, and then there's like a couple monsters. So they're like the NPC entries from the back of the monster manual. And there's some really cool ones. The Ashari, I think they're all a really great mix. And they're going to serve different functions in your game. So if you're actually playing in the Tal'Dorei set, they have, these rich histories and how they interact with that campaign setting. But if you're just looking for different versions of a druid or elemental priest, these are great to rip from this book right into your world. You have 4 elements. You have fire, earth, water, and air. And they are all kind of a little different.
So you want to, you're looking for some NPCs to play in your Dark Sun game. These guys will work. You wanna use a new organization that's up and coming, that's very elemental. Bam, you've got these guys. All of them possess interesting abilities. They're different challenges across the board: 4, 5, 7, and 7. So you've got some different levels that they could be used. But to have a humanoid that rolls up and is that kind of a threat all by themselves, I like those kind of levels of difficulty. So great to be able to put it anywhere.
Yeah, your Ashari Stoneguard is a beast in melee combat. He's making three granite maul attacks. Has the ability once per turn to cast Thunder Wave with one of those strikes. He has the Sentinel ability as a reaction, or the ability to basically just gain resistance to non-magic weapons as a reaction as well. So, and a ton of hit points. At first I was like, man, as a challenge 7 compared to the Fire Tamer, these guys they're a little lacking, I think.
Well, the Fire Tamer has literally the ability to turn into an elemental.
Yeah.
So he's like, boom, I'm an elemental. Now you got to fight through the challenge 5 of an elemental. Then once that's defeated, oh, well, now I'm back to my dude.
That part is a little unclear about. I didn't like the wording on this as much on the flame form. And I wish it had been a little bit clearer, because it does not talk about it in the same way it does. It just says when you hit 0, you revert to your humanoid form. It doesn't say, it's not wording the way polymorph is.
Okay, well.
And the way wild shape is. I would like a little clarification there, because the Wave Rider has a similar ability as well, where they shape change. Could use a little bit of a clarification. Maybe you should sage advice at Matt Mercer, and maybe he can clarify that for us. But even with that, it's still a great ability. I mean, you're still an elemental. These guys, when they're not an elemental, they get resistance to fire. That was the main thing I saw. I was like, when I was comparing the two, I was like, well, these guys get resistance to one of the most popular damage forms, and these guys get immunity to a condition that barely ever comes up, which is petrified. But then as I was reading, I was like, all right, there's some other things. I mean, the fire guys are better spellcasters. They get up to 5th level spells. Oh, so not only can they be a fire elemental, they could conjure one as well. They just can't do it while they're in their fire elemental form.
Right.
They have the flame charm ability, which is pretty cool. So if there are other fire elementals on the battlefield, or elemental creatures on the battlefield, they have the ability to charm them and maybe use them against you. Where the Stone Guards, they're pretty much a meat wall. They got a bunch of hit points, a little bit of spell casting.
You start off throwing your hold person, and then you get into melee with them.
Well, pretty much, or you just use everything to do Thunder Wave every round, because it's just a bonus action as part of your attacks, which is pretty sweet.
Absolutely. So, we're not going to get in depth into all the different monsters, but each of the Ashari has a different level of spellcasting, as we said. But all of them have some, so that gives the access to that druidic or priestly type thing. We get a Cinder Slag Elemental on the next page, and this is a pretty awesome elemental.
This is basically your molten lava elemental, to simplify it.
It's got the ability to get through narrow gaps and what have you. It's got the ability to literally enter the space of a hostile creature and form up around them. So like they've got to get out or just essentially be consumed by the lava. I think they're a fantastic thing, and the fact that they're the same challenge as the other elementals, it gives your casters something else to summon or something else to turn into.
And there's also, well, and they're also evil elementals for that matter. But there's also the fact that they have heat vision essentially. You know, they have laser eyes. One of the attacks that they can make is their molten gaze, and from 30 feet away they just zap you, and you're taking 6 die 6 fire damage. It's not bad, and that's a Constitution save. So if you were to use it on say the mage or something, that's going to hurt a bit.
As a challenge 5, you could throw this up against the a party, and the first thing it does is it melts the armor off the fighter. Now it's going to just crush them. Because not only does it do the damage, but it has the caveat of if they fail their saving throw, one non-magical item the target is carrying instantly melts or burns to cinders. No, this is carrying, so get rid of their weapons.
But still, that could definitely be a thing. Like, you heat blasted the fighter with his greatsword, and now he's holding nothing, and he just took a buttload of damage. Not nice. So moving on, we have the clasp, and they give us 2 kind of like archetypes for them. One of them I really dig. One of them I think is kind of boring. The clasp cutthroat is literally, it's like, why did you take up the space? For its abilities, it is just a regurgitated rogue. And you could have used other things from the monster manual, the back of the monster manual. Now, the enforcer I enjoy because I like it when you see a NPC type and they're giving a unique ability. Same thing with the Shari. They did the same thing, which was really cool. In this case, intimidating presence is really awesome. When you attack people with your weapon, you cause them to be frightened if they fail a saving throw.
Now, that's a DC 15 saving throw. And it says whenever it hits.
Yes.
So you have the ability to make 3 characters around be afraid of you, and then any members of the clasp get advantage on anything that you've given fear to.
Well, the enforcer's allies, they don't actually have to be members of the class.
Okay, all right.
We're just assuming they probably are.
Yeah. So that stacked with something that sneaks. Is utterly terrifying.
And, and that's why I like this stat block. I like this is a cool thing to add to your game, where the other one is like, you kind of took up some space and without making it particularly interesting.
I think they wanted to reinforce the pairing so that, all right, my big bad comes up and makes you scared, and then my little rinky-dink guys get to hurt you.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with getting a rogue. I didn't actually pull out the monster manual and see okay, what's the direct correlation between any rogue-like characters or NPCs in that.
Between Valo's Guide and the monster manual, there's going to be some very similar ones. They may not be the exact same. Where this is almost like regurgitated out of the player's handbook of what an 8th level rogue would look like.
So I like I said, I don't have a problem with what's here. I've got the ability to just take, okay, I can put together an encounter with just these 2 people and the role playing information that they give me on the organization, and now I can use them.
Absolutely. So moving on, we have the Cyclops Stormcaller. These guys are pretty interesting, and they give you like a handful of rumors to go with them to kind of flesh out, well, what could these guys be? So these are large giants. And the Stormcallers are actually the weaker of the Cyclops. They're the ones that
they're
are kind
smaller.
They're smaller than the Cyclops, and they're also weaker because it says most of them don't survive to adulthood, but the ones that do become Stormcallers, and so they're kind of ostracized by their own society. But what we get out of that is kind of a really cool Cyclops that has some innate spellcasting. Supernatural focus, which evolves their affinity for the storm. Storm wings, so they have the ability to fly when there's a storm around them.
Which they can create with their spells.
They do have the superpower of poor depth perception as well.
So I think what's here is pretty cool. They've got the ability to create ice claws on their hands. They've got the ability to cast spells. As you said, they've got the ability to fly if they're within a storm. They get some pretty bumpy stats across the board.
And they have all the good saving throws.
Well, they have all the saves here. I mean, it's they got a plus to everything. So I would advise you not to attempt to make them make a charisma save.
Yeah, they're good at making saving throws. So, in addition to that, we also see something a little bit new in our stat block, and that is under armor class, where they're actually putting in gear, magic gear, as part of the monster.
So I was actually going to call that out myself. This is the first stat block I've ever seen that has magical loot built in. If you see a Stormcaller, they've got magic items. End of story. Now you could have a jerk DM's like, oh nope, they only work for that thing, and or it's it's
giant
size, so
yeah.
it doesn't reshape. What doesn't resize to you? So
you can wear it as you'll have to wear it as a bicep band or something.
It's a belt.
Yeah. That brings us to Goliaths, and Goliath Stormborn is the first stat block we get. These are pretty interesting. I like this. I like it that they're mixing and matching some things that are actually from classes and races, and then throwing like some new stuff in there. And I like when you see that new stuff that you can't get anywhere else mixed into an NPC stat block. It makes them far more interesting.
While as is, I like what is here. I would want to make a change to this. I look at the picture and that inspires me in a different way. So like I would say like, okay, yeah, he's got resistance to lightning. I don't know whether I'd want to change that to like immunity to lightning or what have you, but I would want to have like the creature itself is born of lightning. He's got lightning arcing across his body and across his axe.
He does do lightning damage with that axe, so even if he misses, you still take lightning damage.
Okay, well, I just all right. I mean, it's there. I just didn't feel that there was enough. Maybe I missed something, but like you got
you can cast lightning bolt 3 times a day and call lightning once a day. How much more lightning do you need in your lightning guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't say pisses lightning. Is that the problem? I think he gets plenty of lightning. I think this guy's going to be a terror on the battlefield. One, he blasts the party 3 times from a distance with lightning bolts to soften them up, mind you. And then cast Call Lightning and charges into battle. And he's literally hurling lightning while he's whacking you with his lightning axe.
All right, I'm convinced. I
heard you like lightning, bro. Here's some lightning in your lightning, dog.
So the Goliath Brawler, this is someone that's like, forget dealing with the weapons. I want to punch stuff. I want to get in there and smack it down. The RP makes it really seem like they're a badass. It's only a challenge 3. I would have liked to have that go up a little bit. But you've got the ability to cause different effects while you actually are fighting stuff. They can cause a bruise. They can disarm. They can do a suplex. That part is really awesome. So you can knock them prone. You can have them lose a weapon, which doesn't take an action, but they get to then claim it. And then they can cause a bruise that, on a failure, their speed is reduced by 5 feet until they receive at least 1 point of magical healing or a DC 15 Wisdom Medicine check.
Well, let's look at this and dissect this a little bit. This is a little fun. So basically, if you have a move of 30 or less, in 2 rounds, if you roll really bad for saving throws, they can immobilize you. So in round 3, they could suplex you. Basically, you're on the ground prone and you have no movement.
That's true.
It's pretty badass if you ask me. All of which is done with their fists, and they do a die 8 with a punch. Not bad.
The question is as a whatever you are fighting a challenge 3, are you going to be able to survive those 7 attacks?
Well, there's that too. 7 die 8, plus 3, 21. Maybe, yeah. Like that might be enough to take you out of it too. So I feel like they're still kind of badass compared to like a 1st level, 2nd level, even a 3rd level fighter. It would be a tough fight. If you're going mano a mano. So against a party, no. I mean, obviously,
yeah.
Their ass
okay, one-on-one, yeah. Party, not so much.
But this is someone you put up. You put them in there with other creatures, or you're using one of them against the 1st level party.
Oh, that's gonna tear apart a 1st level party.
It would be a really tough fight. And they would seem like a badass, I think. I mean, 65 hit points, it's going to take them a little bit to get through that. They're going to be able to use the reaction to, reduce damage one time.
Yeah, three unarmed attacks against the first level party. That's hurting.
Yeah, but if you spread them out, it's not as bad, I suppose.
Yeah, you spread them out, you're bringing down, third round, the two people are done.
Well, all right. Badass, hey. It could be some dual damage.
So now we move on to one of the cool things that I really loved in this section, apart from the Cinder Slag, and that's the Krag Hammer Goat Knight. We get this awesome large goat that not only does it have its own powers and stat block, but then you get the knight that's mounted on it, and both of these guys are like protected by divine presences.
Well, I mean, I guess if you kind of like break this down mechanically, it really is just a dwarf paladin that has cast Find Steed. One of the problems I see with their steed, with them being at CR3, is it's got 19 hit points, so it's not going to last very long. But if you combine the two, again, that's 71 hit points between the two. It's going to get hit really easy. He's going to be hard to hit. He does have some magical powers. He's got some dwarven powers. He's got some spells. It could be a interesting encounter for the party.
Now we have a notation here, and I'm gonna guess that this is an oversight, but it says okay, once the goat drops to 0, it doesn't die. There's no corpse. It just disappears. And in either case, the same steed is summoned when the Goat Knight casts Find Steed. So then I go over to the spell list under the Kraghammer Goat Knight.
He doesn't have the spell.
He doesn't have the spell Find Steed. So I'm going to guess that should have been another line added into it. And should I ever run with this, I would then
give them
a casting of Find Steed once a day.
Yeah, that would probably be a little bit useful for them to have, but that is funny. And it's thematic. It's a cool thing. It's a great illustration, guys, of what you can do in your campaign world if you want to make things a little bit different. This guy would be a fun NPC that I might use to be like, oh, like the players need to cross a bridge, and like this is the guy that says, no, you can't cross the bridge because of X. And then like you either have to convince him, win him over through combat or something.
Or, you use this as on a rocky mountainside where everyone has to deal with the difficult terrain, and he's
bouncing
all around without any detriment whatsoever.
So the next section is Ravagers, and we have a Ravager Stabby Stabber and Ravager Slaughterlord. And at first, I really dismissed the Stabby Stabber, and then I read it, and I was like, oh my god, this is horrendous. And also, when I read the Ravager Slaughterlord, I'm like, oh my god, this is the champion you should have used against us in your game. You had the Bloodlord demon, right, and his champion was an orc. I was like, it's this guy. With the abilities are actually a little bit cooler. It's like, Ted must not have seen this one.
Yeah, I hadn't gotten to this guy yet. All right, most killer thing on this page is the Ravager Stabby's Stabby Frenzy. When the goblin hits with a melee attack, it may attack again. It can continue making additional attacks until it does not hit. The goblin cannot move between attacks made with this trait. So it literally goes until
it doesn't hit.
It doesn't hit.
If your DM is really lucky with the dice on that particular day, he could literally just take out a portion of the party in one round.
So you get two people, into combat with this thing, find a way to give it advantage for the turn, and it can literally... It will keep going as long as it's attacking.
It is like the evil Energizer Bunny.
So, okay, you're at 0. Doesn't matter. It's going to keep going. Oh, I'll attack you 2 more times. You're now dead because you've gotten 4 failed death saves because I've just crit you twice. Now I move on to the guy next to you and keep going.
And I feel like it makes sense with this. It's still a dick move on the DM's part, but it totally makes sense. And these are kind of equivalent to the Goblin Boss in the PHP, or not the PHP, in the Monster Manual. They're only slightly weaker, so adding these guys into a conflict they're brutal,
devastating. You know, you use this because it's challenge 2. You use this against, say, like a first level party. I guarantee you're going to kill someone.
Maybe several someones,
depending upon how the dice go. But absolutely, and there is no turning back. Like if I would field this, I'm going to go ruthless with it.
You're gonna stab her.
Absolutely. The Slaughter Lord, you know, it's aggressive. It's got blessings. It's got spell casting. It's got legendary resistance. Yeah, it's got unarmored defense.
It's a large orc.
Yeah, so like that there's a lot of things that fit well with what I had done as my orc champion.
They're both basically fed a regiment of alchemy and magical substances until they mutate into either stabby stabber or slaughter lord.
And you know, it's undetermined how many slaughter lords are in the Ravagers, but oh my god, they're crazy.
They're a challenge 9. They get aggressive like orcs. They have Blessing of the Ruiner, which is basically spell-like abilities, giving them, you know, the cantrip Thaumaturgy. Then 3 times a day they get Flame Strike and Spiritual Guardians 3 day each. 1 a day each is Control Weather and Divine Word and Firestorm. These guys can just rip through a battlefield by themselves. They have Legendary Resistance twice a day. They have Legendary Actions. Which one of those legendary actions is, hey, use one of your spell-like abilities. So, like, you could literally firestorm every square around you because that's once. But yeah, but that's how that works. Then you can start hitting Flame Strike, and Spirit Guardians, and then use your Divine Word for anything that hasn't died yet. So yeah, only once. But yeah, or they could attack or move, or they get other things they can do.
Because once you've gone through all of your spells, then you can, you know, just keep attacking.
They have multi-attack. Slaughter Lord makes 4 attacks with its great swords. So, and it dual wields great swords, which is friggin' awesome. So or you can just use your spear attack. You have one of those as well. But why would you want to use the spear when you have dual great swords? And those great swords, they do 2 die 6, like you expect, piercing damage, plus a die 6 of fire damage. So they're doing 3 die 6.
So that's 6. That's a pretty decent amount. But for some of the other things that I've seen at that level, that actual, you know, damage is low. They're still making 4 attacks, so that's up to 12 die 6 worth of damage, and then they can do some
plus 24.
So, like, that's a considerable amount of damage, but it's not unheard of in comparison to other challenge 9s that exist.
I think it's when you combine it with the other things, though, with the spell casting and the legendary actions.
Yeah.
That these guys are going to be a terror. And what are the chances of fighting one by themselves?
That is entirely true. My Demon Lord, you know, orc thing that I used, I mean, it was definitely considerable, and it made you rethink certain spells because of how much damage he was literally laying out. So it's definitely crazy. The next thing we get is into, you get a couple cults. The Remnant Cult is pretty interesting, pretty fun, and you get 2 members of that cult to be able to, you know, get into and play with to expand your Tal'Dorei knowledge even further.
Yeah, you get a challenge 7, a challenge 12. They're both spellcasters, and they, you know, the weaker one, the Remnant Cultist, has a nasty dagger of wounding ability, which could be totally disgusting. If they're able to get this off on you on a regular basis and they're able to activate it, like, they can just do insane amounts of damage, and you're not able to heal either. So,
right.
You know, plus being spellcasters, they get a couple of interesting abilities that go with it. So all in all, you know, I think these are great resources, especially if you wanted more things to add to your cults that you have already. And this also gives you an insight into how you might flavor a cult.
Yeah, so like I looked at these and I'm like, okay, well this is definitely a direction that I could have gone. I tried to just mix things with you know, Archmage and Archmage, however you want to call it, to spice up. That's how I deal with spellcasters. Just put in the dash.
Well, they actually did this a little bit in here. These are actually mixed in. Like, if you look at the more powerful one, it's the Archmage, right? But it's reflavored a little.
Right. So that's kind of what I had done when I had you guys up against spellcasters. But it's good to have more cult options if you're playing that kind of game.
And, it just shows you an example of how you could do it in your game. So what do you guys think? That brings us to the end of our highlights of Tal'Dorei. Hopefully it was helpful and useful to anyone that was thinking about picking up this book. So with that, let us know what you think in the comments below while you're at it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out over on nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.